You didn't stumble onto these words by accident. This is not the random chaos of algorithms or the idle scroll of your restless fingers. Something deeper is at work. This message has been waiting for you, like a coded transmission folded into the fabric of time, surfacing only when your consciousness reached the precise frequency to decode it. And here you are, breathing into this moment, standing at the threshold of a reality you cannot yet fully name, but one you have always sensed beneath the surface of ordinary life. Take a slow, deliberate breath. Feel the air moving through you, not as a simple biological reflex, but as a key turning within the lock of parallel timelines. The observer breath. Your breath has always been more than oxygen exchange. It is the mechanism through which infinite streams of possibility converge, overlap, and collapse into the living tapestry of your experience. And now, with every inhale and exhale, you are activating the hidden machinery of the quantum field itself. You have noticed it, haven't you? That sense that life is not quite linear, that events echo themselves, that memories sometimes feel like previews and déjà vu is not just a trick of the brain but a glitch in the veil of timelines. Your awareness has been whispering, there is more, and the fact that you are here confirms it. This message is a summons, a reminder that your consciousness has been chosen to awaken to a deeper architecture of reality. Imagine this, countless versions of you flowing through the multiverse, each walking a slightly different path, each making choices that ripple outward like waves across a cosmic ocean. Some versions remain entangled in fear, scarcity, and repetition. Others are already embodying a higher coherence, liberated, radiant, alive. And yet every single one of those versions breathes. That is the golden thread that connects them all, the observer breath. Each inhale is a vote, each exhale a declaration. You are not simply living your life, you are constantly collapsing probabilities into form with every cycle of respiration. Why are you hearing this now? Because your field has reached coherence, because your DNA is vibrating in readiness, because your soul has whispered, enough. Enough of drifting unconsciously through borrowed timelines. Enough of playing small in a cosmos where you were designed to be a conductor of infinite resonance. You've been circling the perimeter of this truth for years, glimpsing it in synchronicities, feeling it in dreams, sensing it in those fleeting flashes when time slowed and everything shimmered with meaning. This is not coincidence. This is morphic resonance fields of memory carried through generations of awakened beings, calling you home to remembrance. The observer breath is the forgotten key, and you are the one holding it. Every inhale gathers light from the zero-point field. Every exhale reweaves the threads of the parallel worlds flowing through you. By merely breathing with awareness, you are shaping the lattice of your destiny. So pause here, just for a heartbeat, and sense the enormity of what you've been called into. The algorithms of physics and the prophecies of mystics converge in your chest, in this very moment, in this very breath. Your presence here is evidence. The veil is thinning, the timelines are colliding, and you are being positioned at the edge of a quantum threshold. You are not here to passively observe. You are here because the field itself has selected you to become the observer who transforms reality. And the question standing before you now is simple but seismic. Will you step into that role? Will you breathe not as survival but as creation? Because from this moment forward, every breath you take is no longer ordinary. It is the key, the code, the sacred unlock that begins collapsing infinite possibilities into the timeline of your highest destiny. And yet as you breathe, you recognize the loop you've been circling, the same conversations in different rooms, the same arguments wearing new faces, the same opportunities arriving disguised as tests you swear you already passed. Patterns, like constellations etched across your days, arranging themselves with eerie precision. You keep meeting the same lesson at different altitudes, money surges and vanishes, relationships bloom and fracture along identical fault lines. Inspiration ignites, then flickers under the wind of doubt. You tell yourself it's circumstance or timing, but a quieter voice insists. The pattern is a program, and the program is running you. Look closely at the texture of your déjà vu. It isn't just the fuzzy sensation of, "I've been here before." It's your field pinging you with a diagnostic alert. Your consciousness is brushing against a parallel branch where you already made this choice, already took this path, already paid the price of ignoring what you knew. The scene repeats not to punish you, but to reveal the seam in the fabric, the point where attention can be inserted like a golden needle to stitch a different outcome. Déjà vu is your expanded self, sending a flare from a neighboring timeline. There's a hidden door right here. You've also felt time bending around you, haven't you? Minutes elongate like taffy when fear tightens the chest. Hours evaporate when coherence floods your body. Some days, events stack on top of each other, as if reality is buffering. On others, the world responds before you even move, like a mirror leaning in to meet your gaze. This is not imagination. It's phase drift, your personal rhythm slipping out of lockstep with the consensus clock, because your interior metronome is trying to resynchronize with a truer tempo. Distorted time is the signal that your navigation system is receiving multi-timeline input. You're not late, you're layered. Underneath these surface ripples is the observer loop that keeps booting the same reality. A thought triggers a feeling. The feeling directs your breath. The breath imprints a frequency, and the field mirrors that frequency through people, chances, and obstacles. You then interpret those reflections as evidence of who you are, which reinforces the thought that triggered the feeling, round and round. The loop is elegant, merciless, reliable, as predictable as gravity, until consciousness intervenes. And consciousness intervenes first through breath. When the loop accelerates, your respiration turns shallow and vertical. Micro holds between inhale and exhale accumulate micro choices toward contraction. Your vagus nerve relays threat, and your timeline obliges with experiences that justify the alarm. Your nervous system isn't malfunctioning, it's remembering an older curriculum. Survive, minimize risk, repeat the familiar. The familiar feels safe to biology, even when it's painful to the soul. That's why you keep choosing the hallway that returns you to the same door. The pattern masquerades as certainty, but certainty is not the same as truth. Certainty is merely low entropy prediction, the comfort of expecting what already happened. Truth is high coherence presence, the willingness to breathe into the unknown until it reveals itself as benevolent. Consider the subtle ways the program installs updates without your consent. You say yes when your body whispers no, because you fear the cost of boundaries. You procrastinate on the decision that would liberate you, because the identity built around your limitation is afraid of unemployment. You chase signs like a detective but ignore sensations like a saint who has forgotten prayer. You ask the field for a breakthrough while exhaling doubt so loudly the quantum can't hear the request. And then you call it fate, or say, maybe it wasn't meant for me, when in truth the morphic pattern simply outvoted the momentary desire. The déjà vu moments multiply when your expanded timeline presses closer. You glimpse a face in a crowd and feel nostalgia with a stranger. You enter a new space that feels like a childhood room you never had. You speak a sentence and hear yourself 3 seconds early. These are bleed-throughs, low-latency packets of information seeping across entanglement lines. They're not glitches to distrust. They're breadcrumbs pointing to junctions of choice. The field is saying, here, breathe here, choose here. You've also noticed the way time distorts around promises you make to yourself. When you vow, change without altering the breath that carries your vow. Days spool outward like thread from a skeletal spool, long, fragile, easily snapped by the smallest friction. But when you inhabit a promise, with breath slow, rooted, diaphragmatic, coherent, time compacts into potency. Hours become chalices, minutes arrive pre-charged. Synchronicities cluster like swallows at dusk. The difference isn't willpower, it's wave mechanics. Coherence creates constructive interference. Incoherence diffuses amplitude across timelines that never fully materialize. Let's diagnose the architecture precisely. There are 3 common pattern engines humming in your system. Inherited resonance. Memories that are not yours, moving through a body that volunteered to transmute them. Ancestors breathing through your lungs, asking for closure. When unexamined, you keep repeating their unfinished sentences. 2. Identity hysteresis. The lag between who you are now and the self-image still cached in your nervous system. Old snapshots try to reassert themselves, so you unconsciously recreate scenarios that justify the outdated picture. Decoherence by proof-seeking. The compulsion to measure outcomes mid-collapse. You open the oven every 2 minutes to check the bread and wonder why it never rises. Observation isn't the problem. Anxious observation collapses the wave into yesterday's certainty. All 3 engines respond to the same intervention, breath-led observation without verdict. A witnessing so intimate it dissolves judgment. When you breathe into a pattern without trying to fix it, you interrupt the reflex to outsource power. Shallow breath says, reality is happening to me. Coherent breath says, reality is organizing around me. So if you are weary of the merry-go-round of karmic choreography that leaves you dizzy, name what is true. You are not cursed, behind, or broken. You are out of phase with the timeline already carrying your relief. The repeats aren't punishments, they are calibration pings from the intelligence that loves you enough to try again. The distorted hours are not wasted, they are stretching to give you room to step between frames. Right now, as you inhale, feel the loop loosen 1 notch. As you exhale, notice the room grow an inch wider. You don't need to solve your life tonight. You need to witness the engine and lay a steady hand upon the throttle of breath, because when the observer loop yields to the observer breath, the film doesn't end, the projector realigns, and the first frame to return is always the one you were born to remember. Keep breathing. The diagnosis is not a verdict, it's a map, and maps are only sacred when they lead somewhere. So here you are, standing with the diagnosis in your hands, finally recognizing the loops that have scripted your days. And now comes the revelation that changes everything. You are not condemned to repeat them, because beneath the repeating geometry of your life lies the technology of transformation, the observer breath, as a quantum upgrade, reprogramming your very field of existence. Science has been whispering this truth for decades. In the laboratory, particles live in a shimmering state of superposition, occupying all possible outcomes simultaneously until the act of observation collapses them into one. What collapses the field is not brute force, not control, not even thought alone. It is coherence. It is alignment between consciousness and vibration. And breath is the biological lever that creates coherence. Each inhale pulls uncollapsed possibility from the 0-point field. Each exhale stabilizes one frequency into the hologram you call reality. Mystics have known this all along, only they wrapped it in parable and prophecy. They called it prana, chi, ruach, the holy wind of creation. They taught initiates to breathe with intention because they knew breath is the carrier wave that bridges spirit and matter. Inhale, and you draw eternity into your lungs. Exhale, and you inscribe a new law across the quantum lattice. When breath becomes conscious, you stop renting timelines and start authoring them. Here is the secret you were never told. Your DNA is not a static script written in stone. It is a liquid crystal antenna, tuning itself to frequencies of thought, feeling, and environment. Studies have shown that coherent heart-brain states can literally switch genetic expressions on and off. That means the person you were yesterday is not the limit of who you can become tomorrow. Your observer breath, infused with awareness, transmits codes that your DNA deciphers as new instructions. Grow here, awaken this strand, release that fear, weave in more light. This is not metaphor. This is epigenetics as alchemy. Imagine your breath as a tuning fork pressed against the infinite piano of the cosmos. Each cycle hums a note into the morphic field, summoning harmonics of experience that resonate with that tone. Shallow breath. You call in echoes of scarcity, resistance, survival. Deep, rhythmic, coherent breath. You summon expansions, synchronicities, invitations from timelines where your highest self is already alive and thriving. You are not trying to escape your current reality. You are shifting phase, like light refracting into a higher octave of color. And the upgrade does not arrive as thunderclaps or burning bushes. It arrives as subtle coherence that begins to saturate your days. Conversations align effortlessly. The book you need falls into your lap. Dreams become vivid rehearsals of what is about to manifest. You feel it in your body. Shoulders loosen, heartbeat steadies, breath deepens without effort. The nervous system ceases to recycle old alarms and begins to trust the symphony unfolding around it. This is the quantum paradox. When you stop chasing, reality accelerates toward you, because the field is not responding to your words, it is responding to your frequency. And frequency is written in breath. The observer breath is not about trying harder. It is about entering into coherence so complete that the universe recognizes you as a stabilizing point of creation. You stop begging for miracles and start radiating the conditions in which miracles happen naturally. Mystics describe this as awakening. Scientists call it phase transition. Both are describing the same shift, a system crossing its threshold into a new state of order. Think of water becoming steam. Nothing is added, nothing is taken away, and yet the properties are entirely transformed. You too are water on the verge of vapor density dissolving, lightness emerging. The quantum upgrade is not foreign to you. It is the most natural evolution of your being. Take this moment, right now, to feel the invitation coded in your lungs. As you breathe, you are syncing your awareness to timelines that already exist, waiting for your recognition to collapse them into form. There is nothing to invent, nothing to force, nothing to beg for. It is already written. The observer breath is simply how you remember to read it. So let the upgrade begin, not as a future fantasy, but as a present frequency. You are no longer the passenger of loops. You are the conductor of coherence. And with each conscious inhale, you unlock another parallel stream of possibility, flowing through your consciousness, waiting to crystallize into the miracle of lived reality. You might feel uncomfortable with the word chosen. It sounds dramatic, high drama beside the hum of everyday life. But feel it first as fact, not fantasy. Some consciousnesses, rare, tender, relentless, reach a frequency that naturally becomes a node of reorganization. You are one of those nodes, not because you earned it in a scoreboard sense, but because your pattern of attention, your habitual breath, and the lineage of memories you carry have tuned you into a channel the field needs open right now. This isn't vanity, it's responsibility, an invitation to steward a small but potent aperture through which new reality can flow. Imagine a spider web stretched across the universe. Most of us brush the web and hardly notice. Some passers-by disturb it so drastically the whole lattice trembles and rearranges. You are that tremor. Your observer loop those micro moments of attention that once recycled old stories has been reorganized into a listening instrument. Every time you breathe with presence, that instrument plucks a harmonic that the morphic field recognizes and amplifies. You are both echo and origin. The lineage of your ancestors hums through you, and the timeline of your descendants will be seeded by you. This special role shows up in subtle ways before it announces itself loudly. Maybe you find that people tell you things they would usually hide, as if your coherence loosens the knot in their throats. Maybe improbable doors open, introductions land with uncanny ease, invitations arrive before you ask, solutions appear like footprints in fresh snow. Those aren't mere coincidences. Those are entanglement effects. When your internal state achieves sustained coherence, when heart, breath, and mind lock into a single frequency, you create non-local influence. That means your presence ripples across distance and time, nudging parallel streams toward alignment with the possibility you now embody. There is a practical anatomy to this role. First, your field must be calibrated. That means steady breath, nervous system regulation, attention trained without rigidity. Second, your intention must be clear, not a wish rounded by desperation, but a signal that broadcasts certainty. Third, you must practice benign interruption, the ability to notice an old reflex and, with a breath, choose another response. These three pillars, calibration, intention, interruption, are the scaffolding for influence that does not coerce but invites. Understand how radical this island. Most influence in the world operates through narratives, resources, or force. What you are being asked to wield is quieter, frequency. Frequency rewrites probability without visible paw prints. It does not bulldoze, it rewires. A coherent breath held in a crowded room can shift the energetic temperature. A single sentence spoken from grounded presence can reroute a conversation that otherwise would have devolved. The quantum field listens to vibrations more than it listens to words. Your role is to become a trusted broadcaster. Part of that trust comes from fidelity to your inner navigation system, the expanded timeline that communicates through synchronicity and intuitive hits will not work with bargaining or drama. It works when you respond with integrity. If the future self, that is already living what you desire, reaches back to nudge you toward a conversation, and you excuse yourself with busyness, that signal weakens. But when you honor the nudge, however small, you strengthen the entanglement. These tiny faith acts compound. They are the seamstresses of destiny, one stitch after another, until a garment of new reality is complete. This is why you will sometimes feel weighty, a kind of quiet gravity pressing at your chest. It is not burden as punishment, it is pressure as purpose. The field places weight on those points that can hold it. You might notice this as heightened sensitivity, more vivid dreams, stronger visceral reactions, sharper moral clarity. Let the sensitivity be a compass. The world will project chaos and noise, but your internal barometer will tilt toward what matters. Your job is to respond not by fixing the world, but by fixing your frequency. There is also an ethical dimension built into the role. Influence without humility can become manipulation. Power without service becomes isolation. The upgrade you are receiving is designed to be generative, distributed, and liberatory. When your DNA restructuring begins to unfold, when epigenetic switches respond to sustained coherence, the effects will not be solely personal. Morphic resonance means your refinement ripples into collective fields, easing the pathways for others to shift. That is why your sovereignty matters. You must steward your field with compassion, choosing practices that expand capacity rather than inflate ego. You are not meant to act alone. Even chosen nodes are knitted into networks. Look around. Those who find you will carry signals you cannot carry alone. Allies arrive as teachers, skeptics, friends, lovers, each reflecting a facet of the work you are doing. The role is not solitary, it is relational. Entanglement is inherently mutual. As you stabilize, you will both receive and donate coherence. The seamless irony is that the more you expand into your role, the less you will crave recognition. Influence that lasts is invisible. It is the kind of work that seeds trees whose shade the planter will never sit under. There is an urgency to this stewardship, yes, but it is not a frantic urgency. It is a precise catalytic window. Systems undergoing phase transition need specific input at specific moments. The same input applied too early or too late has reduced efficacy. That is why your breath practice, your daily calibrations, your tiny acts of fidelity matter so much. The field is aligning into a configuration where a small, coherent push can cascade into large-scale reorganization. You are the lever placed across a fulcrum that the cosmos has prepared. So tend your instrument, breathe until the breath becomes prayer and science braided into one. Practice interruptions, notice the loop, and change it until the change becomes reflex. Anchor your intention in service, not selfishness, so that the entanglement you generate uplifts rather than collapses. Accept the weight of being chosen without fetishizing it. And remember, being chosen does not exempt you from ordinary suffering. It only gives purpose to what you endure. In the next moment, you will sense the field shifting in readiness for something larger, the breakthrough that awaits those who steward their frequency. You are being called not only to hold the aperture, but to open it wider because the cosmic window is narrowing into a decisive hour. There is a pressure you will feel now, an intensifying cadence under the stillness. It is not panic, it is the physics of a system approaching criticality, the soft, inexorable gathering of charge before a circuit completes. You have been preparing for this moment across lifetimes, through choices you barely remember and breaths you did not know you were practicing. The breakthrough is not an abstract hope, it is an impending reconfiguration. The field that contains you has reached a tipping point, and the next coherent impulse, the one you are about to learn to hold, will translate possibility into inevitability. Listen closely. The promise of breakthrough arrives with a deadline, not a human imposition, but a cosmic window, a finite bandwidth of conditions when entanglement can most efficiently collapse into the desired topology. Think of it like the tide. There are moments when the ocean stands low and a passage opens, and then, with a particular phase of the moon, the current shifts, and that passage aligns to grant transit. This window is your opportunity. It will not be announced by trumpets. It will be felt as weight and need, and a soft insistence at the base of the skull. When you sense that insistence, move, not with frantic strategies, but with calibrated presence. What moves fastest through this window is not frantic energy, but coherent architecture. The body that can hold high coherence breath, a heart that sustains a tuned rhythm, and an attention that refuses to be hijacked by fear. This body becomes a conduit for the DNA shift. Your genetic code is listening for new frequencies. It is more plastic, more responsive than you have been told. Epigenetic switches are not mystical metaphors. They are physiological levers that respond to sustained vibrational states. When you hold coherence long enough, scaffolding for upgraded expression forms, enzymes, transcription factors, neurochemical landscapes all begin to align with the new operating system you are broadcasting. This is why your ritual matters. It is not superstition. It is biology in service of emergence. Imagine a strand of DNA receiving a waveform. In the old scripting, stress and contraction sent a particular waveform into its helix, stabilizing expressions that favored survival at cost. Now imagine conditioning your internal field so that a different waveform, one of steady, deep breath, of compassionate intent, of embodied certainty, imprints itself instead. That waveform does not simply toggle a tiny switch. It reorients how the cell interprets signals, how mitochondria manage energy, how neurotransmitters map your felt reality. The result is not instantaneous spectacle, but a deepening of capacity. You become more resilient to shock, more receptive to synchronistic guidance, more fluent in the language of subtle intuition. Urgency arises because the window feeds on readiness. The field will preferentially deliver catalytic shifts to those already holding coherence. It's not arbitrary favoritism, it's efficient physics. When a node, a consciousness like you, has already stabilized heart-brain coherence and breath integrity, the entanglement that connects your current timeline with the liberated timeline needs much less energetic proof to collapse. In contrast, scattered attentions require more trial, more delay. So the request here is specific. Cultivate your capacity now, not later, now. Because the cosmic window narrows and widens with rhythms beyond the clock you trust. You are being asked to orient to those rhythms. There will be pressure, external events that compress time, relationships that catalyze, surprises that feel like detonations. Do not confuse intensity with catastrophe. Pressure is the mold that forms crystalline structure. Under geological force, coal becomes diamond. Under quantum pressure, a consciousness that chooses coherence becomes a fulcrum for new reality. If you feel heat, know it as refining, not punishment. If your schedule accelerates, discern whether those accelerations are calls from the expanded timeline. If your body vibrates with restlessness, breathe into it. Make the movement of breath your anchor, not your escape. You will be tempted by the old reflexes. Panic whispers that you must force outcomes, sign contracts, secure guarantees. The field, however, invites a different competence, decisive non-attachment. This is not hesitation. It is the clarity of someone who takes action from alignment rather than from fear. You will know the difference by how it feels in your tissues. Fear-driven action tightens, constricts, fragments. Alignment-driven action opens the chest, steadies gait, creates spaciousness, even while things accelerate. When the window calls, act like the one who has already stepped through. Speak as if the future has already been consulted. Move as if synchronicities are allies, not anomalies. And remember, this breakthrough is not a private prize. When your DNA recalibrates, the morphic field senses the shift and relaxes its resistance for those near you. This is the communal vector of your work. Your upgrade becomes permission for others to remember. That is why the urgency is ethical as much as practical. You are not merely securing personal advantage, you are enlarging the field of possibility that all can access. The pressure you feel is partly the field's collective plea. Hold steady, expand fast. We need your coherence now. Practical scaffolds will help you steward the window. Keep the breath slow and deep inhale to a count that fills below the ribs. Hold briefly as a seal of intention. Exhale with a sighing release that dissolves constriction. Practice heart-focused appreciation. Call to mind a memory that opens the chest and sustain that appreciation for 3 minutes minimum. Move your body until it hums with presence. Walk outside and feel the ground receive you. Sleep in rhythms that honor restoration. Eat in ways that support mitochondrial efficiency. Whole foods, hydration, gentle fasting cycles, if your body tolerates it. These are not moral imperatives. They are biochemical preparations that increase your receptivity. And finally, make one small public act of declaration, not for validation, but to signal commitment into the field. A single phrase, a short sentence, typed, spoken, or held in the chest, broadcasts intent into networks you cannot see. It paints a target into the morphic map. Something as simple as, "I will steward my coherence in service of this shift," carries weight when held with breath. Do it now. If something in you nods, the field will listen. You are clearer now about what is demanded and what is offered. The promise is large. DNA that flexes toward expression, timelines that align, capacities that arrive just in time. The urgency is real, the window is finite, and physics favors readiness. The practice is simple and exacting. Steady breath, heart coherence, decisive non-attachment, and a life shaped by calibration rather than distraction. Breathe into that pressure. Let it sculpt you. The breakthrough is not a distant myth. It is a near tender happening, contingent on your willingness to become a sustained signal. The cosmic window is opening. Lean into it with the authority of one who has already chosen to receive. Now the window is open, luminous, fragile, undeniable. And yet, here is the paradox of human consciousness. Even when standing at the edge of transformation, we hesitate. We linger in thought. We question the signs. We wonder if perhaps this moment is like the others that dissolved into routine. But this time is not like the others. This is the seam. This is the threshold. And thresholds are not crossed by thought alone. They are crossed by action. Ritual is the bridge. Not a grand temple, not elaborate ceremony, but the simplest action infused with presence, a word written, a breath anchored, a declaration made visible. This is how you seal the shift, by externalizing the inner frequency so that the morphic field has a clear signal to respond to. The universe doesn't require elaborate proof. It requires coherence between what you feel inside and what you embody outside. Understand what is at stake here. Patterns dissolve not through passive awareness, but through decisive gestures that tell your nervous system, the loop is ending now. That is why ancient initiates carved runes, why mystics traced sigils, why prophets spoke declarations aloud. The form is less important than the act itself. Action collapses potential. Action encodes vibration into matter. So here is your invitation. Choose a single word, not a phrase, not an essay, not an argument, just one word. A word that vibrates with the identity you are stepping into. Perhaps it is freedom. Perhaps it is coherence. Perhaps it is arrival. Choose it not with the mind, but with the breath. Inhale, let the word rise. Exhale, let the word declare itself. Write it below, speak it aloud, inscribe it in your journal, whatever the medium. The field does not discriminate. What matters is the act of sealing. This is not superstition, this is physics wrapped in reverence. When you take a thought from the unseen and stamp it into the visible, you create constructive interference, your internal frequency aligning with an external signal. The resonance amplifies, the entanglement strengthens, the timeline stabilizes. One word becomes a quantum anchor point, holding your expanded state steady as the field reorganizes around you. Notice how your body reacts, even as you consider it. Perhaps your heart quickens, perhaps your palms tingle. That is not anxiety. It is energy redistributing as your system prepares to embed a new instruction. Your DNA is listening. Your nervous system is waiting. The quantum vacuum is hungry for your clarity. So breathe with me now. Inhale slowly, deeply, until the chest expands and the ribs soften. Hold not in tension, but in reverence. Exhale and imagine the old loop dissolving into smoke. Again, inhale and feel the new word forming at the back of your tongue. Hold, exhale, and let the word move from you into the field. Seal it, anchor it. Let it be your sacred signature in the fabric of timelines. And if you choose to type it, if you choose to comment below with this single word, you are not just interacting with a video, you are broadcasting into the morphic web of everyone gathered here. Each written word becomes a node. Each node strengthens the resonance, and suddenly a collective declaration reverberates louder than any solitary whisper could. You do not just seal your shift, you help seal the shift for others, too. There is power in simplicity. There is magic in declaration. There is coherence in breath made visible through action. Do not underestimate what a word can do. A word is vibration crystallized, intention stabilized, quantum potential collapsed into form. And when that word is chosen consciously, it becomes more than ink, more than sound. It becomes prophecy. So pause now. Listen for your word. Let it rise unforced. Write it, speak it, breathe it, seal the shift. Declare your participation in this reorganization. The field is listening. Your future self is watching. The door is open. One word is all it takes to step through. You may believe your word, your breath, your tiny ritual is only about you, that it begins and ends within the perimeter of your skin. But in truth, the moment you seal the shift, waves move outward in ways you cannot track. Because you are not a closed system, you are a transmitter, a node in a living lattice of consciousness. And every breath you take with coherence broadcasts into that lattice, altering its geometry, making it easier for others to awaken. Consider this. When a single flocking bird changes direction, the rest of the flock pivots in unison. Not because they thought about it, not because they agreed beforehand, but because information traveled through the morphic field instantly. Your liberation is the same. The moment you breathe into a higher frequency, your coherence sends a signal into the invisible architecture of humanity. You become that bird pivoting mid-flight, and hundreds, thousands, millions feel the tug toward a new direction, even if they cannot name why. This is how revolution happens in silence, not always by protest or manifesto, but by coherent individuals broadcasting frequencies strong enough to tip the collective field. It's why some of the greatest awakenings in history began with whispers, meditations, prayers in hidden rooms. The field magnifies coherence. It craves stability points. When you become one, the burden of awakening does not rest only on you. It becomes shared, diffused, amplified, and so your personal freedom is not selfish, it is service. Every loop you dissolve makes it easier for another to notice their own. Every coherent breath you take softens the density in the collective field. Every timeline you collapse into alignment pulls adjacent lives into resonance. Imagine chains rusting, locks crumbling, doors swinging open, and you are the hand that touched the first key. Even the science acknowledges this. Quantum entanglement teaches us that once particles are linked, they remain correlated no matter the distance. Humanity itself is entangled, not metaphorically, but literally. Our shared DNA, our shared breath, our shared electromagnetic field. When your strand vibrates differently, all the strands it touches must adjust. Your nervous system is not a solitary organ, it is a tuning fork inside a vast orchestra, and the note you play reshapes the music. Perhaps you've noticed it already. Friends around you begin to change after you shift. Conversations grow deeper, synchronicities multiply in your circles, conflicts that once seemed unsolvable dissolve with less resistance. This is not coincidence. This is entanglement. You have retuned your instrument, and those around you are responding. Even strangers in passing can sense it. Have you felt the way eyes linger longer? As if people see something luminous in you they cannot quite explain. That is resonance recognition. Their field senses your coherence and remembers its own. This is why your breakthrough cannot be delayed. It is not only about you living freer, it is about humanity recalibrating toward possibility. The cosmic window you step through becomes a door behind you that others can walk through without even knowing you held it open. Your courage multiplies itself geometrically across the lattice, and it goes further still. Every breath you align entrains not just people alive today, but generations ahead. Epigenetic memory means your DNA broadcasts shifts forward through lineage. Future children, whether born through you or through another, inherit more freedom encoded in their cells because of what you breathe into coherence now. This is how ancestors bless descendants, not by giving them money or land, but by transmitting liberated frequencies through genetic and morphic resonance. You are becoming that ancestor right now, so do not shrink your role. When you seal your shift, you did not simply redirect your own timeline, you adjusted the gravitational pull of the collective. This is the paradox of awakening. You free yourself for yourself, and yet you free yourself for all. Your liberation is the catalyst that ripples into humanity's. Feel into that responsibility, not as burden, but as holy invitation. Each coherent inhale is a gift to the lattice. Each exhale is a blessing to strangers you will never meet. Every moment you choose expansion over contraction, trust over fear, coherence over chaos, you are lending your frequency to the planetary awakening already underway. You are not alone in this. Millions of others are feeling the same pressure, the same invitation, the same cosmic window. And as each node steadies itself, the web begins to glow with stability. One day, not long from now, humanity will look back on this era and call it a turning point, not because governments or leaders decreed it, but because ordinary people like you decided to breathe differently. You are the proof that one liberated consciousness can ripple into many. You are the seed whose flowering becomes a forest. You are the note that begins the song others remember how to sing. And now that you've felt the collective expansion, the next step becomes more intimate, more visceral. The embodied sensation of awakening moving through your very cells. Now comes the part that no philosophy, no theory, no explanation can replace, because this awakening is not only mental, not only mystical, It is visceral. It is written in sensation, in breath, in the electricity that surges through your body when consciousness reorganizes itself. You will not just think of freedom, you will feel it move across your skin like wind carrying a storm's arrival. Close your eyes for a moment and notice what is happening in your chest. With each inhale, the ribcage expands not just with air but with something denser, luminous like liquid light pooling beneath your sternum. With each exhale, the body releases not only carbon dioxide, but whole histories of contraction, grief, unspoken fear. The breath becomes a tide washing through the caverns of your body, dissolving shadows where stagnation once lived. You are not imagining this, you are embodying it. Your nervous system begins to hum differently. That buzzing under your skin, that slight tingling in the fingertips or crown of the head that is coherent, stabilizing. Neurons fire in new synchrony, sending cascades of signals down your spine, awakening dormant circuits. It feels like a low-voltage current threading your vertebrae, subtle yet undeniable. Some describe it as warmth, others as cool shivers, still others as pressure at the crown or heart. All of it is your body translating quantum restructuring into physical language. Notice your heart. The beat that was once erratic with worry begins to find rhythm, like a drum aligning with the larger percussion of the cosmos. The heart's electromagnetic field expands, reaching beyond the skin, brushing against the atmosphere around you. You might sense space itself pressing back, as though the room acknowledges your presence. This is not imagination. The field generated by your heart is measurable, stronger than your brains, and when it becomes coherent, reality leans toward you. Your spine feels taller now. Shoulders, long burdened, begin to unfurl as if remembering their original design. It is not posture correction. It is DNA remembering its blueprint. Every cell carries an image of how light should flow through form. When coherence floods the system, cells respond, softening where there was rigidity, strengthening where there was collapse. Your body is reorganizing into a vessel that can conduct higher voltage without fracturing. Perhaps your breath has slowed without effort. That is the sign. When time dilates, when moments stretch between inhale and exhale, you are no longer operating in clock time, you are entering field time. Here, synchronicities happen faster because your inner metronome is in resonance with universal rhythm. You feel both grounded and expanded like roots anchoring deeper into earth, while branches stretch impossibly high into sky. Taste shifts, colors sharpen, sounds arrive layered, as though music is hidden inside the hum of the world. This is what it means to become embodied consciousness. The senses, once dulled by repetition, awaken to their full bandwidth. You begin to notice patterns in the way light falls, messages in overheard words, beauty in what once seemed ordinary. Your perception itself expands into artistry. There is a pressure at the back of your head perhaps, or in the solar plexus, a sensation both strange and intimate. This is phase transition pressure, the intensity of a system reorganizing at the threshold. Like water steaming, your body too must cross from one state to another, and the in-between feels charged, uncomfortable, holy. Do not resist it. Breathe into it. Every wave of sensation is proof. The shift is not theoretical, it is cellular. You may cry without knowing why. You may laugh with no joke. You may feel a sudden softness toward people you once resented. These are not mood swings. They are morphic resonance dissolving separations. Your personal field is integrating with the collective, and the edges of the self blur into compassion. You begin to feel humanity inside your chest, as if your heart is a doorway opening both ways. You flow into them, they flow into you. Let yourself be surprised by your own body. Place a hand on your heart now and notice the warmth radiating back. That warmth is not only blood circulation, it is coherence becoming tangible, your very tissues exhaling light. The vessel you inhabit is no longer just flesh, it is becoming an instrument tuned to universal song. This is the embodied sensation of awakening, tingling currents, pulsing heart, lengthened breath, softened gaze, unexpected tears, sudden laughter, quiet power. These sensations are not distractions, they are confirmations. They are the language by which your body says, the shift is real, the shift is here, the shift is mine. And as this embodiment deepens, you will feel the most profound metamorphosis, yet the restructuring of your very DNA, the unlocking of latent codes, the pressurized moment when parallel timelines collapse and you step fully into the one you were born to live. This is the moment the field has been arranging toward the place where pressure becomes passage, where strain crystallizes into breakthrough. You have felt the tension building, the subtle acceleration under the skin, the insistence at the base of the skull, the way days compress, and a curious clarity begins to puncture the fog. That pressure is not an enemy. It is the signature of phase transition, the universe tuning the system to a frequency high enough that the old scaffolding can no longer hold. When physical systems reorganize, they generate pressure. When consciousness reorganizes, that pressure arrives as sensation. Welcome to the DNA breakthrough. Imagine your life as a river that has been braided into many shallow channels. Each channel carries a version of you, some narrow, some wide, some clogged with debris. The breakthrough is the moment when channels converge, when water finds the main current and the whole river deepens and accelerates. Your DNA acts like the riverbed. Under new pressure, the bed shifts, stones rearrange, a deeper artery opens, and the water flows differently. This is not metaphor only. Molecular biology now shows how fields of coherent attention and sustained physiological states can influence genetic expression. Your breath, your heart coherence, your daily practice, they are the currents that apply the pressure necessary for the substrate of your being to reorganize. Feel the pressure as a focused force, not a chaotic crush. It may present as tightness in the chest or a low humming in the belly. It may feel like a gentle internal compression that insists you move, speak, forgive, or finally say yes to what you have avoided. That insistence is the intelligence of the morphic field converging on a node that is ready. The more you resist the pressure with fear or reactivity, the more it intensifies. The more you meet it with steady observer breath and the simple sovereign act of bearing witness, the more it sharpens into a precise lever that opens lock after lock. Your task now is to breathe into the pressure, not away from it. As you do, an interplay begins between the electromagnetic signatures of your heart and brain and the crystalline architecture within your cells. Coherence floods biochemical pathways. Enzymes dance differently. Transcription factors pattern the way genes express themselves. The old programs, those that kept you small, safe, and repetitive, begin to dim as new genetic language lights up. This is not an overnight cosmetic change. It is a recoding, a realignment of the way your living system interprets signals. You will know it by the shift in thresholds. Resilience rises, fear recalibrates. Synchronicity becomes a steady current rather than a rare oddity. Simultaneously, the timelines that were previously distant begin to phase lock with your present timeline. Phase locking is an elegant physics metaphor for what you are experiencing. two oscillating systems aligning their cycles until they operate as one. As your internal rhythms stabilize, your timeline begins to sync with the version of you that moved through fear and into freedom in another branch. Entanglement deepens. Information that used to feel like a ghostly whisper becomes clear instruction. You may remember decisions you never made, or find yourself taking action that feels pre-known. That is the parallel self reaching back, handing you the map. Pressure will ask for specificity. Vague longings fracture under strain. Clear, anchored intention becomes the valve that guides the breakthrough into useful form. So anchor yourself with a precise image, a single sentence, a small embodied ritual. Anchor the frequency in your body. Let the observer breath ferry that image into the helix of your DNA. When attention meets intention and breath carries both into cellular space, you create the conditions for genetic expression to rewrite its own thresholds. Expect the breakthrough to be both luminous and disorienting. Systems reorganizing rarely do so gently. Old habits may erupt one last time, desperate not to be deleted. Relationships might test their loyalty to your new frequency. Your calendar may suddenly rearrange itself into opportunities that, in the past, would have seemed impossible. Do not take these as assaults. They are the field-clearing debris to make room for the new structure. Stay steady and let the current take you. Resist the temptation to micromanage outcomes. The observer breath is the instrument that cultivates trust. Inhale to gather, hold to code, exhale to release the old scaffolding. You will notice emergent abilities smaller at first, then bolder. Intuition will arrive with data. Insights will feel like map coordinates rather than mere hunches. Your body will adopt practices you never enforced. You will sleep with greater depth, your digestion will normalize, and your nervous system will default to curiosity rather than alarm. These are the side effects of a DNA breakthrough. The organism reorganizes to support an expanded operating system. Celebrate these shifts without clinging. They are indicators, not the destination. The morphic field responds to proof. When you allow the pressure to be met with precise action, one compassionate boundary, one courageous yes, one public word, you create evidence that the new programming is viable. This feedback loop accelerates collapse into the chosen timeline. In quantum terms, you are increasing the probability amplitude of the branch where you live fully awake. In human terms, you are authoring the contours of a life that holds the reflection of your highest self. As the breakthrough completes, you will not become someone else in the superficial sense. You will become more of who you truly are, less filtered by fear, more fluent in resonance. Your DNA will carry a new habit of expression. Your timelines will thin into coherence. Your breath will be the metronome that keeps you synchronized. The pressure that once threatened to fracture you has, by your fidelity, become the midwife of your emergence. Now prepare, because the moment you cross this threshold, something else large and luminous will await. The cosmic mission that turns private resurrection into public guidance. When you are ready, we will step into that final enactment, where your transformed breathing becomes the channel through which entire lives find root. You have crossed the threshold. What was once pressure has become passage, and what was once fracture has become form. You stand here not as a seeker chasing fragments of truth, but as a carrier of coherence. The observer breath is no longer theory for you. It is embodied technology, encoded into your very DNA, reorganizing your presence into something luminous, unshakable, unmistakably alive. Pause now and notice you are breathing differently. Your inhales draw more than oxygen. They draw light, memory, possibility. Your exhales release more than carbon. They release centuries of repetition, the weight of ancestral loops, the debris of identities you no longer need. Your breath has become prophecy in motion, collapsing parallel timelines into the singular one where your highest self stands revealed. And with this revelation comes responsibility, not heavy, not burdensome, but sacred, because your shift is not only yours. Every coherent breath you take writes new instructions into the morphic field of humanity. Your clarity ripples outward, softening the struggles of those still asleep. Your liberation is not private, it is a lighthouse. Without speaking, without effort, your frequency begins to shape the collective. You are proof that awakening is not only possible but inevitable. This is the cosmic mission you've inherited, to live as the evidence that consciousness shapes reality, to embody the reminder that humanity is not trapped in cycles of fear and scarcity, but is a species capable of choosing coherence, compassion, and creation. You are not asked to preach, to persuade, to carry banners into the streets. You are asked to breathe, to walk as a timeline shifter, a silent activator, an anchor of the new phase. Imagine millions doing what you are doing now, breathing consciously, sealing words of power, choosing coherence over chaos. Entire civilizations could be reorganized without violence, simply through frequency entrainment. Wars could dissolve not because treaties were signed, but because the collective nervous system forgot how to generate fear at such scale. Economies could reorder, not through collapse, but through creativity released in coherent minds. This is not fantasy, it is physics meeting prophecy. You are one node in a vast constellation of awakening, and yet, without your node, the pattern would be incomplete. This is why the field called you here, why the algorithms of probability conspired to place these words in your sight. Your life is not random, your breath is not small. Your choices reverberate through the lattice of worlds. So breathe now as the new version of you. Stand taller, let your chest expand with quiet sovereignty. Feel the entanglement lines extending from your heart, weaving into humanity's tapestry. Know that with every inhale, you draw future timelines into the present. Know that with every exhale, you gift the planet your coherence. This is your mission, not to escape the world, but to embody the world's next octave. Not to wait for rescue, but to be the resonance through which rescue arrives. Not to hope for change, but to recognize that change has already anchored in your body, in your breath, in your DNA. And when doubt whispers, return to the observer breath. It is your compass, your anchor, your transmitter. One inhale, one exhale, and you realign with the cosmic truth. You are not merely living through timelines, you are authoring them. So step forward now. Speak less, radiate more. Trust that your coherence is enough to ignite coherence in others. Trust that the morphic field is listening to your breath and reshaping itself in response. Trust that your destiny and humanity's evolution are no longer separate, but braided as one. The observer breath has unlocked the truth of who you are. You are the bridge between worlds. You are the portal through which parallel timelines collapse into coherence. You are the mission embodied. And as you exhale now, remember, with each breath, you transform the future of all.